You may have seen over the last few weeks an article or a social media post going around claiming that the UK has spent more on Brexit than it has on its membership of the EU since 1973. This sort of headline is the exact thing that any news corporation wants. It's short, it's simple, and it's an easy argument to make, and it can be posted easily on social media to all those friends who disagree with you on the issue of leaving the EU. But is it true? Where did this come from? Well, thanks to some research from Full Fact, we aim to explain that in this video and answer the question, how much has Brexit really cost the UK so far? If you haven't already, please subscribe to our channel for more updates on Brexit and politics more generally. So, the article we're referencing was originally written by Fergal O'Brien, an economist and editor at Bloomberg, and the analysis it's based on was conducted by the economist Dan HANSON. The article states that the cost of the UK's vote to leave the EU already hit £130 billion and will likely reach £200 billion by the end of 2020. This cost is actually based on how much smaller the UK's economy is now than what it was predicted to be if we followed trends prior to the vote to leave. So, essentially, the UK's economy at the end of 2019 was £130 billion smaller than what the economic trends prior to the vote would have predicted it to be. By the end of 2020, the British economy is predicted to be £200 billion smaller than what it was expected to be, using trends from before the referendum. The assumption is that the trends before the referendum would continue post-referendum to the end of 2020. Although we're not economists, the article doesn't show specifically and definitively that Brexit is solely the cause of the trend not being followed. Not only this, but the trend is an extrapolation, and although there is a divergence of the UK's GDP growth rate compared to the G7 countries since the vote to leave, there is no concrete evidence of causality. So what we're saying is this is just an estimation, and there could be other factors at play here that could have affected the growth rate. Claire Milne at Full Fact has done some research and found that according to a House of Commons briefing paper, the total cost of being a member of the EU since 1973 and up until 2018 was £216 billion in real terms. Additionally, by using data from the Office for Budget Responsibility, Full Fact have predicted that by 2020 the UK will have paid £222 billion to the EU. So, no matter how you look at it, the cost of Brexit has not and is not predicted to exceed the contributions the UK has made to the EU since joining. They point out that Bloomberg did not actually compare the cost of Brexit to the cost of being a member of the EU. This was done by commentators on social media. Nonetheless, as can be seen, even if the model that Bloomberg uses to predict the UK's GDP growth post-referendum is perfect and Brexit contributes 100% to the predicted £200 billion loss of GDP, the UK has already paid £216 billion up until 2018. No matter how you look at it, the Bloomberg article does not show that the cost of Brexit so far is higher than the contributions to the EU budget. Having said this, £200 billion is a huge amount, and we're not trying to downplay this fact. What we're saying is twofold. There is, so far, no evidence that Brexit has cost more than membership, and that the £200 billion cost is based on extrapolation and may not be perfect. Despite this, the trends do certainly look like the UK economy has grown a lot slower since the referendum than comparable economies, or what was projected before the vote. So even if it's not all down to Brexit, it's likely that the chaos has damaged the UK economy and cost the UK a lot. That being said, supporters of Brexit would argue that the costs are worth it, and that after this uncertainty is over, the UK will be able to recover, forge its own path, and be more successful than it was as part of the bloc. As mentioned earlier though, we at TLDR News are not economists, so please don't be too harsh to the scriptwriter, who also happens to be the narrator, in the comments. Anyway, what do you think? Do you think that the economic costs of Brexit are justified even if they do stack up into the hundreds of billions? Or do you think that the economic issues aren't important and the regaining of sovereignty and power is worth the short-term financial hurt? Be sure to let us know in the comments below.